Welcome back to the Manosphere Paradigm, the channel where we learn to level up in health, wealth, relationships, and hobbies. Guys, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and that notification bell. We are up to 256 subscribers, so I want to say thank you to you guys for subscribing. It just shows me the support you guys are giving the channel, and I thoroughly appreciate it. So today I want to go into a big change that's happening, that could possibly happen. It's been brought up for question, but it's a big change within the South African Divorce Act here, when it comes to how the interpretation or how assets is being divided when a marriage is dissolved, and when things basically go downhill and the couple decides to divorce. I have a lot to say about this. I'm not an expert when it comes to the subject, but I'm reading up on what has been happening, reading up on the I would say, just the talk around it. To me, I'm seeing a bit of a negative that's coming out of it, and also a positive to a certain extent, based on our historic law. So I want to get into this video, where it's a quick video from the local South African Broadcasting Corporation, SABC, and they're talking to one of the experts, or one of the lawyers that is closely following this case. So let us have a listen to what they are discussing. That's on the Full View, is the program called on the SABC.
That changed things potentially for many women was lodged by Mrs. G. Let's delve further with her lawyer, specialist family lawyer Beverly Clark. Ms. Clark, thank you for being with us.
So just a quick one. Mrs. G, or the lady in question, she's the one that has taken this case. Obviously, her lawyers has taken it to court. It's gone up to the High Court, and they have ruled and made a ruling that that the current law and the way it is duly, it's basically negatively affecting her. She's made a case for it, the lawyers made a case for it, and this is the lawyer that's actually on the show, giving her input as to the interpretation of the law and what the type of changes that can possibly be implemented if this case is successful. So let's have a listen.
Tell us more about the case of Mrs. G, presumably a name to protect her identity.
Yes, one's not allowed to report the names or identifying features of parties in divorce matters, although you can talk about the case and the law. So Mrs. G was married in 1988. She was 22 years old, and she was presented with a one-page antenuptial contract just before the date of the wedding, which of course happens to many people. And in fact, her father-in-law said to her, "Nobody's marrying into my family without signing this antenuptial contract." And what the antenuptial contract said, which is quite common in South Africa, is that they would be married without out of community of property and without the accrual system. The accrual system in South Africa.
The father was kind of like looking out for best interest of his son, and obviously making sure she's there for the right motives in wanting to be with him, and building a life now. Obviously, we can't predict the future, but I'm going to delve into some stats also when it comes to the type of the divorce rates currently. But yeah, I wanted to just give you guys that you know what, we obviously have an option to be able to put that in place. However, when it comes to South Africa, we have a law, or at least we have a time marker, which was 1984, I believe, which was anything before that, everyone married within the accrual system, where if you get divorced, then your assets will be divided. And then after that, things have changed. So let's get back into it.
Provides that parties will share what they have accrued during their marriage. They will share on dissolution of the marriage. If you marry without the accrual system, then what's yours is yours and what's mine is mine, and there is There's no sharing on dissolution of the marriage. And until this week, our courts were not allowed to interfere in that situation if the technicality.
And that goes back to again where not allowing the government to get involved in your marriage. And like she has said, up to now the courts have stayed out of it. Couples has made their own arrangements, and they have lived with those arrangements. And obviously, some people have suffered the negative results of that arrangement for maybe the fact that they didn't get out of it what they thought they would get, or the type of financial payout that they know that that they'll be able to live their life into their old days after their marriage has been dissolved. So let's go back into it again.
Is if you were married after November 1984. And but if you were married before November 1984, the court can, in appropriate circumstances, order a redistribution of assets. So Mrs. G went to court.
So that's very important. Before 94, the court can intervene. If you were married before 1984, the court can intervene. But after 1984, it is because people have the freedom of choice. Then the government did not have that scope to be able to go and interfere and then overturn whatever was agreed.
To say this is unfair discrimination in terms of our constitution, because it's irrational that if she'd been married just 4 years earlier, she could have claimed a redistribution of assets. And what Judge Elmarie van der Schyff in Pretoria held this week was that time bar in the Divorce Act is unconstitutional and infringes on people's fundamental human rights. And
so what she's saying is that 1984 marker has been something that's been in place all those years. And like she said, the government did not get involved because of that time marker 1984. Anything before then, the government would be able to sit down. You guys can go through as to what you guys have as built together, and there would be a certain level of fairness to a certain extent when it comes to the distribution of the assets. After 1984, the government does not get involved because you had the option to get married with that accrue in being in community of property or outside of community of property, but that was your choice and the government did not intervene. What has changed is the government is looking to now, if you decided to marry outside of community of property and not have that accrue, then the government then wants to have the scope now to change things and to say, although you married, the woman can come to the court, make a case to still make a petition for to be compensated and to get a portion of the man's assets.
Dignity. So now anybody who is married with an antenuptial contract after November 1984 or before, which was always the case, which excludes accrual, can go to the court and say, I have made contributions during my marriage of any variety in the home, raising children, and I am therefore entitled to a portion of the assets of my spouse.
So I've mistakenly believed that almost everybody did the accrual system because it protects both parties. But you're saying that this would actually impact on a vast swath of women in our country.
Yeah, it would. And, certainly less so now, but in the 1980s, the 90s, many women didn't work outside the home and became economically disadvantaged, even if they perhaps took time off to raise children. And the other party, or the husband usually, would be the one who became wealthier during the marriage or had more money. And many women who have these kind of antenuptial contracts simply had no claim. And there has been a great deal of injustice perpetrated as a result of this portion of the Divorce Act.
Yeah, you know what? When it comes to if you've been together for years and years, we have this, anywhere in the world, you have a certain level of the haves and the have-nots. South Africa, because of our unique type of setup and the apartheid era, a lot of families had to go through certain struggles together. And obviously that puts placed an extra strain on marriages. But for the most part, people stuck together, and weathered the storm. And only when there was a certain level of freedom in people being able to, especially women being economically um, benefit benefited by a lot of opportunities. Obviously, you've also seen a rise in divorces that goes along with it. But one of the big things that has protected to a certain extent both parties is the fact that you had a choice to basically marry within community or marry outside of community of property, and the government did not get involved if it was after 1984. If this is changed, it's going to be a big shift. And if you as a married couple has been together for 10, 20, I would say 20 odd years, 30 years, and you guys have decided to separate, that's a long time where you guys have worked together, you've built things together, and there should be a certain kind of amicable type of breakup in the way the assets is being divided, because it's a long period of time. If it's 30 years, you've had your children, they've grown up and probably gotten married themselves and have their own lives, and there's an empty nest that's left behind. So all those types of things plays into it, and it's kind of, I would say, it's a good thing where if people do decide to separate, that there's a certain level of compensation if you've been together all those years, and as a woman you've played your part, you stayed at home, you looked after the kids. I understand it and I get that.
For many, many years. So it's incredibly exciting to us that that is no longer going to be the case.
Well, the issue that I have is the fact that they're going to be taking, the people has made a choice to marry in community or out. And the government did not have a say or was involved. And it left people up to make those choices and to live with those decisions that they made. However, the woman is coming through this case. It's technically bringing women back to the bargaining table or the negotiation table, where they've already negotiated, they've already made their bet, they've lied in it, and now they want to change the rules to benefit them after the fact. And I think that is unfair. But let's hear what they have to say.
It's often said that a monetary value should be put on homework, housework and childcare, because it isn't free labour in the sense that the women are sacrificing doing other things. Does this open up claims, I'm interested, even from stay-at-home husbands?
Absolutely. No, absolutely it does. And there's a long line of cases which relate to pre-1984 marriages, where our courts have held that work in the home and in the child-rearing sphere does have a value and is entitled to compensation.
That's fair. If it's going one way, it's going the other way as well, where the guys, maybe the husband lost his job, couldn't find one for whatever reason, and he looked after the family, made sure things were sorted, and the wife was the breadwinner. And if this rule is implemented the other way around, and the man can claim from the woman, it is what it is. But I don't think it's a net positive for the country as a whole. And I'm going to explain why as well. But let's just finish off this video with the last part.
So that is not new. It's just that previously it applied only to people married before 1984, and now it applies to agreed that there was in fact an urgent need to change this legislation. So yes, I am confident, Francis.
And finally, just out of interest, what is the position of Mrs. G? Does she have to postpone her divorce until the whole legal process is over?
Yes, and that is what happened. We got an order by the court to stay the divorce, to hold it in abeyance pending the outcome of this standalone application. And now that we have completed this application, and once we have confirmation from the Constitutional Court, then the divorce itself can continue. And then, of course, she would have to prove the facts to show that she did, in fact, make a contribution during the marriage. And so, for instance, she raised 3 children. She was very, very involved in the home, the community, the farm. And it will be open to her husband in the divorce proceedings to try to prove, if he so wishes, that she didn't make a contribution worthy of.
I think that's fair when it comes to providing the facts, and like she said, the way this marriage sounds to me, it was a very long marriage. There's children, they've grown up. She has played a part, and she has been there for by his side, and she's contributed in making his life easier. For whatever reason, things didn't work out, and they find themselves in this situation. But also the fact that she now is sitting in limbo, where her whole divorce is now on, she can't move on with her life, and she's sitting now in limbo because of this court case, and who knows how long it's going to drag on. But let's just finish off the last bit to this video.
Of compensation during those 35 years.
All right, fascinating. Thank you very much. And congratulations on a very important ruling, specialist family lawyer Beverly Clark.
Okay.
Hey, you making that survey?
So for
Yep,
me,
with Typeform.
Typeform?
Yeah,
come on. So for me, one of the things that stand out for me is the fact that, a lot of people will say, yeah, there's people that's being abused, and there's so many things that happen to women, and that they have to go through, and the people are divorcing where it's not just they're not in good condition, and they need to get out of it, and this is good so that women can be compensated. I'm seeing the positive for me is after a long marriage, such as 35 to 40 years, if you guys decide to split, and there is compensation where you guys can work it out, and the woman has played a part. I mean, you've been together that long. Surely you guys you've raised whatever children you had, and they've grown up to be whatever, you've played your part, and they have grown up to be adults that's contributing to positively to society, I hope. But at the end of the day, is you guys have walked the journey, and for whatever reason you decide to go your own way, and you need to do things where emotion is out of the equation, and having the facts, like they said, she has to provide the facts, and the husband can dispute those facts, but then the court will objectively then look at it. For me, I think that is a good thing, where certain ladies may have been the one that's looking after the home, and unfortunately there is no paycheck for that, but her contribution was a solid one in being the rock at home for the husband to be able to go and do what he needs to do and slay the dragon and be the breadwinner. So I think that is a good thing. The other side that I see, which is a bad, it's going to have a negative impact, is that, like I said earlier, there is times where people say, you know what, there's abuse in relationships, and there is so many divorces, and if people can be looked after, especially the women, because they are so I would say they're exposed to a certain extent, and they need all the support and blah blah blah. It's going to put off a lot of men in wanting to walk this journey and actually go down the aisle in making the commitment in getting married. That's what I can see, because the youngsters looking at this, a lot of men are not thinking to themselves that this is a good bet, and that they're going to have, this is something positive. And a lot of people operate and approach marriage with fear, especially women saying, what happens if things happen where there's a divorce and the husband leaves the wife and there's cheating and blah, blah, blah. I don't like to talk about what can and might happen. I like to talk about the facts. So let me just present that facts and go through I've been looking at the facts online. I found Stats SA. It's very lengthy type of documentation they have. But I found a attorney, or at least a law firm, that has provided, they've put together, they obviously a divorce lawyers, and they've put together on their page as to what the stats in the country is, as to explaining what's happening in the country, what the divorce rates are, who are divorcing. So those are the questions I wanted to answer here. Is that the first one is, what is the current divorce rates in South Africa? That is one of the things I wanted to understand. And let me just go into this. There we go. I'll put this back over here. So divorce rates in South Africa in 2021, Stats SA released the latest stats for divorce rate. These are indicate that divorce in the country is trending downward. This is in 2019, the last type of update that they have done. The divorce rate was 6.2 lower than 2019, than in 2019, which continues the downward trend starting in 2010. So almost 10 years. And then they go further to say the divorce rate in South Africa is trending downward in 2019. The following partnerships were recorded. This was pre-COVID, where this has happened. And I've done a video as well where I talk about how there's also where the amount of marriages has also gone down at the end of 2021. But if you go further, you'll see here the demographic of divorce in South Africa, where it says that 45% of black population of South Africa had the highest proportion of divorces. You had 19% was colored people, 22% was white, 5.5 Indian and Asian, and then 3.4 was mixed couples. One of the things is also who filed for divorce more, and that is a thing that a lot of that is why a lot of people tend to, especially women. You know what? If the husband leaves the wife, she is going to be left high and dry, and she's going to be vulnerable and exposed. But let's look at what the facts are. The facts are that, let's have a look at this. Divorces are mostly triggered by a woman. So that whole argument of women saying, you know what, if the guy leaves the woman, she's going to be left high and dry. And that fear is not a fear that's based in reality. It's just a fear. Women were much more likely to be the instigators of divorce and the first to seek the help of a divorce law attorney. Women started 53.2% of all divorces. Men started 34.6% of the divorces. That's almost double. I would say, almost double. No gender was specified for the rest of the divorces, suggesting the mutual consent may have started it. Oh, mutual consent. I never believe mutual consent. Oh, we're going to get divorced together. Look, someone did something. Someone does not want to be there. And as they are saying, women started 53.2% of all divorces. Women are the ones that's filing for divorce more than men. And it's almost roughly double the amount to men. So I would say not double, but close. But the thing is this, that fear that they have, that women have, that men will leave them, that, as you can see the numbers, that is not a fear based in reality. And one of the other things that I wanted to also highlight is people will be saying, oh no, it's because of abuse and because there's other things that's happening and people need to, there's a lot of reasons. So again, I want to base what I'm saying and what I'm talking about on facts. And I found an article which talks in Business Tech, talks about the top 10 common reasons South Africans get divorced. This was back in, have a look, 12th of March of 2022. Top 10 most reasons South Africans get divorced. They go through a long spiel. You guys can go check it out. I'll leave the link in the description. And you guys can check out the top 10. Number 10 is sitting as differences in priorities. Okay, people change and they tend to, the different priorities amongst married couples, which many men and women discuss and anticipate before their marriage becomes a significant issue in later stages of many marriages. Things change, people's priorities change, and this is what it is. There's religious differences, parental responsibilities. If it often happens that spouses aren't able to constructively co-parent children during the marriage, children are reflections of ourselves, and sometimes parents cannot let go of their egos and put their children in the back burner. Okay, you've got finances, that's number 7. Sexual incompatibility, that's number 6. Addictions, marriage, family addictions. Any addictions certainly don't mix well at all. Any form of addiction has a severe impact on a marriage relationship. You got social media at number 4. Facebook flirting and comments contribute to an increasing number of divorces, and social media is affecting privacy and family interaction. Social media blurs the line between public and private. The nature of social media outlets encourages free-spirited commenting, posting, and sharing of information. Facebook has made it easy for people to look if the grass is green on the other side, especially when so many profiles are just a click away. I always believe that the grass is always greener on the other side because there's a lot of shit over there. That's just my take on it. However, marriage infidelity, that's number 3. So if people are saying, you know what, men are cheating, no, that's not. That is the only number 3, infidelity and adultery. So you go to number 2, physical, psychological, financial, or emotional abuse. Okay, so there number 2 is abuse. Most definitely, abuses can either be a husband or a wife, and is a significant area of concern for many couples. Domestic violence and abuse occur among heterosexual couples, same-sex couples, and any people living together in the same household. They go on further, but number 1, lack of communication. Huh? Lack of communication is the number 1 reason people split up in South Africa. Without communication properly, okay, no relationship can ever be adequate. With communication in a marriage does not mean agreeing with each other. Couples may have communication problems, which usually lead to divorce and breakdown, cannot find the middle way, and cannot compromise. Many teams lack communication. So, communication to me, you're going to end your 10-year marriage, 15-year marriage, 20-year marriage, 30-year marriage, 35-year marriage, Mrs. G. Number 1 reason. Now, obviously, Mrs. G can fall into any of those 10 reasons. But now I'm just going on what they say is number 1, lack of communication. You're going to be dissolving your marriage because of lack of communication. To me, that sounds sounds a lot like what we in the manosphere talk about. And it's not you, it's me. And I'm not happy. That sounds a lot to me like I'm not happy and I've had enough of this marriage. And you know what? I think I can go get better. And that's what I'm going to find out. And when women go out into the marketplace, after they had kids, after they have hit the wall, they tend to find out, you know what, the grass is not that green on the other side like I thought. Men on the other end, they have a bit more of a leeway or scope to be able to go out there and do their thing, because men and women are different. However, I just wanted to break this down and basically go through how the changes in the Divorce Act is going to negatively affect society, because if you have the youngsters looking at this, a young guy, 25, 30, 35, or a 40-year-old guy, he sorted himself out, he wants to have kids or wants to have a family and build a legacy. For him to get married and say, you know what, I'll put the anti-nuptial in place, and it will make sure that what is mine and yours is yours, and we are happy to do that, we're going to get married, and we're going to do this thing. But now, 5 years, 10 years from now, whatever space of time, you decide, you know what, I actually pulled my weight and I want to go and get whatever assets you had before we got together. I want those assets and I want to have a portion of it because I believe I'm entitled to it for whatever reason. This is the woman thinking this way. It's going to put off guys wanting to get married, and it's going to negatively impact our society in South Africa. We have, as we call it in South Africa, in Cape Town specifically, we have our Cape Flats, our previously disadvantaged areas. We have our townships. We have all the type of situations and various type of ills that we have in our society with crime, with gangsterism and things like that. But back in the day, we stuck together, and a lot of couples, and I mean, if you looked at families, a lot of parents through the thick and thin and the tough times, people tend to stay together. When things becomes where everyone is enjoying prosperity and getting opportunity, that is where that's a lot of decisions and a lot of choice comes in, and people do what they feel is going to work for them, and they always have this wanting to get a better deal and thinking they can get a better deal. And that is what there was an uptake in our divorce rate, and now things are slowing down again. And I would think, you know what, we had COVID pandemic, and people had to really survived during a lot of job losses and uncertainty that came along with it. We kind of like went through it. The country had the state of disaster lifted, but we still live with certain protocols just to be safe. But a lot of people are still unsure as to where we're going. So couples, I believe, you've seen the downturn in the divorce rate by 6% odd. I think that to me shows that a lot of couples are sticking together, and again, when there's tough times, people tend to work together and try to make the best of it, because you know what, we need each other, and I think that's a good thing. However, long term, and the incentive for men to get married is being taken away because government is starting to get involved, and they're overturning decisions that couples has made where they've mutually agreed to either marry in community or outside of community of property. And one of the last things I wanted to mention was that um the there we go, people who say would be um again, I said men will stop getting married. And also one of the things is that if you get to a point where the society is not getting married and couples are not having children, it's going to bring down our birth rate. You're going to have a lot more children that's going to be born outside of the marriage structure, the marriage security, and to have a two-parent household. And that's going to also just be a negative towards society as a whole, because when there is kids that's being brought up in a single parent home, that is not the ideal scenario for them to be brought up. I'm not saying that single parents can't bring up their children or single moms can't do that. What I am saying is the best environment for a child to thrive is to have both parents in their lives and in the home. And if less people are getting married, you're going to have more kids are still gonna people are still gonna get together, and children's gonna get born, and they're going to most likely be born outside of wedlock or outside of marriage. And I think it's going to be it's going to affect our birth rates in our country. It's going to affect society when it comes to our type of the family being the foundation of the society, in instilling that morality and guidance, and teaching kids, having both kids a masculine input as well as a feminine touch from the mother. But if you only have a single mother teaching young boys, especially, to be and think like women, and show and express the emotion like women, we're going to have a problem in today's society where there's a lot of feminine women. I'm not talking about the guys that does the ABC and all that. You live your life. I'm talking about where a lot of men are going to be brought up by more and more single moms, and we're going to be having men that is going to be more emotional, because that is the way they're being brought up, in thinking and emoting their emotion like females, because the mom cannot teach them how to be men. So I'm already seeing that type of influence and that type of road that we as a country going to be taking, and I don't think it's going to be good for our birth rate, for our country to sustain and have a positive type of environment for kids to come in. There's going to be a lot more type of the decay of the family, and that's going to also eat away at the moral fiber of our society, where you really have this TikTok generation. People is constantly wanting to be in front of a camera, wanting to play the fool, wanting to be a comedian, and wanting to basically get their 15 minutes of fame, and get it whichever way they can, by showing whatever they can, popping out whatever they can, and boys just making idiots of themselves, you know. So this is going to have lasting effects, and a lot of things that's already negative in our society is going to be amplified because men are walking away. And I've put in my chips, and I've became RP aware after the fact, after I married, and it has benefited my marriage as to me and my wife working together, and me fulfilling my role, and her also supporting and being complementary to the things I do, and us working together and bouncing off each other. But obviously, me as the husband leading the relationship, leading our marriage, and my wife basically following my lead in the way we do things and go about the things that we plan, our future, and things like that. So if that doesn't work for you, it is what it is. Don't come and hate me in my comments and tell me, oh, you such a this, that, and the other. But drop a comment, tell me what you think. But yeah, I'm just looking at this. I'm thinking to myself, this is not going to be good. It's going to be good for the people that needs, for the ladies that has been in marriages for 30 to 40 years, and after a while, she needs to have a certain level of security where at least when she's going into her old age, there's something that she can at least live off from. But for shorter marriages and couples nowadays, the marriage kind of like the window typically is between 5 to 10 years is where the divorce rates is the highest. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be a good thing for men, and it's going to incentivize women to go into marriages, get the resources, enjoy the life of having the husband work his ass off, them deciding, you know what, I don't feel like working, I'll be at home, he's going to be the breadwinner. And then when it comes time to, you know what, I see something else, and number one reason being lack of communication, you're going to have people deciding, I'm going to basically go out, and women are, in my opinion, are being incentivized to get divorced. That's just the way I see it, because no matter what decision they make, no matter what paperwork they sign, they're still going to get something out of it if they just go to the court. And this new ruling is basically going to be in their favor to go into marriages, get resources, enjoy it, and maybe get a child. You know, a lot of times women nowadays, with modern women, they don't want a child in a marriage or want to be married because they feel restricted. They want to have their freedom, and they just want a child so they can then opt out, get the resources, and then live their life they want to. Like I said, you can do what you want. However, I think it's going to have a negative impact on society as a whole. And us as South Africa, I don't see this benefiting us at all. You guys can tell me what you think. You agree with me? Tell me if what I am saying is a total, I am off on this, or you know what, I'm off, but I'm on when it comes to A, B, and C. Give me your opinion. You know, I am just wanting to make sure, the way I look at it is, and the start of this channel is also to have a positive masculinity and have a positive input in our society, and basically be able to us as men standing in those shoes that we need to stand on, and be the men that we need to be in the society. Basically, I would say in today's day and age, definitely need us to be to set straight these TikTok boys. But at the end of the day, I am just saying that this is not going to work. But let me not harp on it. I will see you guys in the next video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'm going to be out. Drop a comment. I'm out. Merch, guys. Watch 10 videos, like those videos, and drop a comment in each one of them, and tell me what you think of the content. Tell me what the discussion point that's being discussed in the video. If you agree, or if there's some different viewpoint that you want to add, let me know, and I will check out those 10 videos with your 10 comments and your likes, and I will definitely make sure to send you a t-shirt to show my appreciation for you coming onto this channel and showing your love. So I'll see you in the next vid. I'm out.